Portland State, Portland, Oregon. It's being investigated along with 59 other universities by the Department of Education for anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment. Remember when they were like, we just love protesters. We love a good protest. And then the protesters came to Portland State, took over the library, vandalized the heck out of it, put up a bunch of really hateful graffiti. And the rest of us were sitting around going, what in the F are those in leadership doing here at Portland State? Well, now they're wondering the same thing too, as the Department of Education is like, we're going to look into you. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's go back to when we had this crazy takeover. These crazy takeovers. That whole thing to me is just mind-boggling. You let a small contingent of people come onto your campus, do an occupy, vandalize the school, and hate on a bunch of Jewish kids and make them feel super uncomfortable. Harass them to no end. I mean, what? How does that? How do you justify that? Yeah, it's just good old-fashioned protest. I mean, who doesn't love a good old-fashioned protest? Now, this is wildly different. And you know what? The leadership at these schools, they deserve to be thrown out. They really do. Because these are hate crimes. That's what you got here. If you had a Jewish kid going to school and they were the target of one of these lunatics, you'd think the same thing, right? You'd be like, yeah, that's not cool. It's just a bunch of lunatics running around.
Yeah, so far all morning long, we've been here since earlier this morning. Protests have been peaceful. Just a small group standing outside, about 24 or so standing out front of the library here. You got an unknown number of people inside the library. We've seen people come and go through some of the doors here at the library. Police have asked the protesters to leave the library. The president of the university also asking the same thing. So far, protesters say they're not going anywhere.
That's the problem. We're asking you to leave. They don't want that conflict, right? Presidential leadership of these universities, they don't, because they believe that anti-Semitism is okay. That's what they believe deep down. Otherwise, you wouldn't allow this to happen. If you believe that, we should hate on Jewish people, if they believe that was wrong, they wouldn't allow this to happen. They're like, it's just some peaceful protest. Nah, it's way beyond that, and it's way beyond an acceptable level. Columbia University, another prime example. You just got a bunch of deranged people thinking that, we can just make fun of whomever and harass them and it'll all be good. We can just, storm into a campus and they'll say, well, they've got a right to protest. Let's watch this.
Outside the library, signs and barricades block the front steps. Protesters tell us they aren't here to cause damage, but multiple windows and walls are now covered in spray paint.
That can be taken off with power wash. I would argue that spray paint, in comparison to people's lives, you can't even make a comparison.
Correct. And what Hamas did on October 7th, you are exactly correct. Unfortunately, you're on the wrong side of that because you're trying to say that, Hamas, a terrorist organization, is on the right side of this. You're trying to convince us here in the United States that that is the way to go. That's the way to support these kids. These kids are screwed right from the start.
From the outside, we saw a broken window on the inside. And one student protester said an outside group did damage some things inside.
Personally, I started sobbing and yelled at them, and they were removed immediately. Nothing significant was damaged. But we have a steadfast resolution that nothing else will be damaged. Nothing that was damaged that will compromise students' access to resources.
Steadfast. Do you remember when I podcasted their demands for like snacks and snack food and all the demands? I guess they weren't demands. They were things that they wanted. Can you bring us some fruit snacks, non-gluten, gluten-free and all that crap? Remember that when they did that and you're like, okay, all right, you guys are going to get real hungry, overnight? What is the deal here? It's a bunch of children cosplaying as adults. We've got a cause and we're going to really show them.
No books have been touched. Nothing has been moved. That is that.
Protests on the PSU campus have been happening over the last couple of days. Protesters took a peaceful rally up a notch on Monday and broke into the campus library and barricaded themselves inside. Police and the university are telling protesters to leave or face arrest. But protesters here have one clear message.
We are staying until our demands are met.
Students, staff, and those who simply support the cause are calling for the end of the war in Gaza. They also want the university to cut ties with businesses that deal with Israel. PSU had said last week some of those relationships are now on hold. University president Ann Cudd.
And emotions are running high. Many feel that the injustices are just too large.
There's Ted Wheeler behind. He's like, good Lord, how did I get myself into this one? Oh, yeah, Mayor Ted.
Large to ignore. And I understand this, but I cannot condone or excuse breaking and entering.
Education's Office for Civil Rights sent letters to 60 universities now under investigation for anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment.
Now, that includes Portland State University, where the university library was briefly occupied last year during the Israel-Hamas war protest. Fox 12's Dylan Scott is live on campus after speaking with students. Dylan.
Riel and Pete, good evening. I think the question on this campus and really all kinds of campuses across the country is whether or not schools like Portland State have and continue to allow anti-Semitism to really fester here, which is a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. And if that is the case, would that mean a loss of federal funding for this university moving forward?
I'm a Pell Grant student, so I rely heavily on government-funded things, and so I need them.
With Portland State among these...
What do you want to bet that she's studying like women's studies or something that's probably not going to result in a paycheck down the road? She defaults on her student loans and yeah, here we are, right? Hey, what'd you study at school? Oh,
60 universities under investigation by the Department of Education for anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment. Students like Megan tell us they hope any potential enforcement action comes based on continued concerns and not the actions of some unaffiliated with the school.
Look at that.
Occupied the university library last year.
One viewpoint of something that was very that happened that just got out of line, and people who weren't here deciding things that happened here, but it's just not true.
In a letter sent by Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, the question is whether schools violated Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits recipients of federal funds from encouraging or subsidizing discrimination by failing to protect Jewish students on campus and provide uninterrupted access to campus facilities and educational opportunities. Jewish organizations and students we spoke to Monday say that had been the case following October 7th, but that PSU has worked to address these concerns. This poli-sci student says she has heard some occasional tensions in the classroom, but the true danger is in violating the First Amendment.
It's just an attack on freedom of speech. And you're like, oh, if you don't say the right thing, I'm going to take away your funding. That's an incredibly inappropriate thing to do.
Supporting terrorism is an incredibly wrong thing to do. And that's effectively what these folks are doing. They're supporting terrorism under the guise of freedom of speech.
I would not be surprised if it came before the courts.
In a statement to Fox 12, Portland State said it reaffirms its dedication to preventing any form of discrimination or harassment and would continue to work with Jewish organizations to combat and mitigate the impact of hate and bias. While there has been no indication of penalties against PSU as opposed to other listed schools like Columbia, this local conversation is part of a larger one about what is and isn't free speech and what role a university plays in protecting all aspects of it.
Are these schools guilty of anti-Semitism? Absolutely. Look at what they had on their campus. Look at the direction those folks were headed. Yeah, that wasn't just about free speech. It was about squashing everybody else. This is what we think. Then you got the whole gays for Gaza thing, right? Yeah, gays for Gaza, greatest concept ever. And you're like, I disagree. That's not going to work out well. You know what they do to gays in Gaza? Department is deeply disappointed that Jewish students studying on elite U.S. campuses continue to fear for their safety amid the relentless anti-Semitic eruptions that have severely disrupted college campus life for more than a year. University leaders must do better. I mean, when I watched this happen at the school that I went to, University of Washington, I didn't graduate. You know what? I'm 100% okay with that. The more I see it with what higher learning is doing, the more I want to disassociate myself. I don't want to be that guy, University of Washington Huskies. I'm a Husky. Because I don't really affiliate with the kind of stuff that we're seeing here. And let's pull up something on University of Washington campus. Let's go to University of Washington campus here. How about this one? Let's check out this one. Nonprofit names UW among top anti-Jewish colleges. Ah, all right. That's us. Take a look.
From a right-wing think tank calls the University of Washington one of the most anti-Jewish colleges in America. The nonprofit is criticizing UW for failing to address a rise in anti-Semitic events in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war.
Now, those findings come after the school's own surveys on this very topic. Fox 13's Taylor Winkle explains how UW's task force is focusing on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
The advocacy group Stop Anti-Semitism gave UW an F grade when it comes to protecting Jewish students. They're even urging Jewish families to think twice before sending their kids to school here. This is coming from their Anti-Semitism on college and university campuses report card. The group says UW did not condemn anti-Semitism on campus following the Israel-Hamas war last October. They also highlight a federal complaint filed over anti-Semitism on campus and campus police protecting illegal pro-Palestinian encampments here last spring. UW has an anti-Semitism and Islamophobia task force. In October, they published findings from their own reporting, noting
look at that.
Climate for Jews is
losers
here at UW. They said in part,
death to fascists.
Fell short of ensuring all members of the community experience a sense of welcome and belonging. 60% of Jewish students said they don't feel welcome based on their identity. 65% said they felt the need to hide who they are. Palestinian, Middle Eastern, and Muslim students and staff also reported similar discrimination here at UW. The task force also points out that anti-Semitism and Islamophobia have long histories that extend before the events of October 7th here. Now,
no shit.
High school seniors are coming off that really busy college application season, trying to decide where to go. Applications for freshmen, undergrads were just due here at UW by November 15th. For now, reporting in Seattle, I'm Taylor Winkle, Fox 13 News.
Allowing freedom of speech is one thing. Allowing hate crimes and graffiti and people occupying campus, I'm a hard no-go on. I mean, because you're never going to keep everybody happy. You got to let kids be able to go to school because these kids probably don't give a crap either way because it's all the absolute loser kids who couldn't get into school, couldn't pay for it, whatever. They're the ones that are out being sponsored by all these NGOs. They're being paid to do this kind of stuff. And, just like Black Lives Matter, it was the cause of the moment. George Soros was just pouring billions of dollars into it. And here we are. Now we've got Department of Education saying, hey, what are you guys doing? Will anything come of this? Probably not. Do you actually expect federal funding to get stopped to these schools? No, I don't think so. But on the positive side, they have been given notice. Hey, that little move you did with the whole protest thing, allowing them to just occupy, in our case, the library. And they had some really old, significant books in that library that were, in play. They were in play. It's like, what's the point here? Freedom of speech, one thing. Occupying a library in a university, and now kids can't use that library? Make that make sense to me. You know what I mean? I'm all for freedom of speech. You want to hold your flag in the public street and do that? I'm okay with that. You want to say ridiculous things? That's covered. Occupying a university that is funded by taxpayers' dollars? Hard no-go. Toss those people out, arrest them, prosecute them, give them 4 or 5 years in the clink just because. That's what I say should happen. Give these people a real lesson because they are not getting one at school. Clearly. Anti-Semitism is great. It's awesome. We all love it. Yeah. No go on that one, right? No go on that one. So, all right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you on the next episode. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.